Have you ever felt a little shiver down your spine when you see Friday the 13th on the calendar? Maybe you avoid black cats, walking under ladders, or breaking mirrors on this particular day. But have you ever wondered where this widespread superstition comes from? Why this specific day and this specific number? Well, get ready to dive deep into history, mythology, and even a bit of psychology. Because today we're uncovering the fascinating and complex origins of Friday the 13th. The story isn't as simple as you might think. It's a tangled web of ancient beliefs, historical events, and pop culture phenomena. Let's start with the number 13. Long before it was paired with Friday 13 had a bad rap. In many ancient cultures, the number 12 was seen as a number of completeness and perfection. Think about it. 12 months in a year, 12 hours on a clock face, 12 signs of the zodiac, 12 apostles of Jesus, 12 tribes of Israel. It's a number that signifies a complete, harmonious cycle. So, what happens when you add 1 to 12? You get 13, a number that disrupts that perfect balance. It's the awkward guest at the party, the one that throws everything off kilter. This idea is beautifully illustrated in Norse mythology. There's a famous story about a banquet in Valhalla for 12 gods. The trickster god, Loki, who wasn't invited, decided to crash the party, making him the 13th guest. Personal rival led to chaos and ultimately the death of the beloved god Balder. This tale painted the number 13 as a harbinger of doom and sorrow, a powerful story that echoed through the ages. This theme of a 13th unwelcome guest bringing disaster isn't unique to Norse myths. It appears in other traditions as well. For example, in Christian tradition, the Last Supper had 13 attendees, Jesus and his 12 apostles. The 13th person to arrive, Judas Iscariot, was the one who betrayed Jesus, leading to his crucifixion. This cemented the number 13's association with betrayal and tragedy in Western culture. Now, let's talk about Friday. On its own, Friday also carried some negative connotations, especially within Christianity. It was the day of the week that Jesus was crucified, a day of solemn observance and penance known as Good Friday. In Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, written in the late 14th century, he casually mentions that it's unlucky to start a journey or a project on a Friday. This suggests that the idea of Friday being an unlucky day was already a part of popular folklore hundreds of years ago. So we have two separate streams of superstition, the unlucky number 13 and the unlucky Friday. For centuries, they flowed alongside each other, each carrying its own weight of misfortune. People were wary of the number 13, and they were wary of Fridays. But when did they officially join forces to become the superstition we know today? This is where things get a bit murky. For a long time, historians couldn't find any solid evidence of a Friday the 13th superstition before the late 19th century. There's a popular theory that connects the superstition to the Knights Templar. The story goes that on Friday, October 13th, 1307, King Philip IV of France ordered the arrest of hundreds of Knights Templar. They were accused of heresy, tortured, and many were eventually burned at the stake. This dramatic and brutal event, happening on a Friday the 13th, is often cited as the origin point of the superstition. It's a fantastic story, isn't it? A powerful military order, a greedy king, a dramatic takedown on a specific fateful date. The problem is, while the arrests did happen on Friday, October 13th, the connection between this event and the modern superstition seems to be a much more recent invention. popularized by authors in the 20th century rather than being a belief held since the 1300s. There's no historical record of people in the 14th, 15th, or even 18th century saying, "Oh no, it's Friday the 13th, just like what happened to the Templars." So if it wasn't the Templars, what was it? The real turning point seems to have happened much later, in the early 20th century. In 1907, an eccentric Boston stockbroker named Thomas Lawson published a novel titled Friday the 13th. The plot revolves around a villainous stockbroker who uses the superstition to intentionally crash the stock market on that very day, causing widespread panic and ruin. The book was a bestseller. It was a thrilling story that took these two separate old superstitions, the unlucky number and the unlucky Diand, explicitly mashed them together into a single, terrifying concept. For the first time, Friday the 13th was presented to a mass audience as a day of deliberate chaos and financial disaster. This novel played a huge role in cementing the idea in the public consciousness. Suddenly, it wasn't just an old wives' tale. It was the plot of a hit book. Then, of course, came the movies. If Lawson's novel was the spark, Hollywood was the gasoline. In 1980, the slasher film Friday the 13th was released. The story of the masked killer Jason Voorhees haunting Camp Crystal Lake on this fateful day terrified a whole new generation. The film was a massive, unexpected success, spawning a huge franchise with sequels, remakes, and merchandise. It transformed Friday the 13th from a mild superstition into a cultural phenomenon, forever linking the date with horror, danger, and a hockey mask. For millions of people, especially those who grew up in the 80s and 90s, the mere mention of the date instantly brings to mind that iconic Kiki, Mama-san. It's fascinating how our brains work, isn't it? Our tendency to find patterns and connections, known as apophenia, makes us susceptible to these kinds of beliefs. If something bad happens on a Friday the 13th, we're more likely to notice it and remember it, reinforcing the superstition. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Economists have even studied the effects of this superstition. It's estimated that businesses lose hundreds of millions of dollars on Friday the 13th because people avoid flying, making major purchases, or even going to work. But the fear itself has a real, tangible impact on the world, whether you believe in it or not. Phew! This fear of the number 13 even has a scientific name, triskaidekaphobia. The specific fear of Friday the 13th is a bit of a mouthful, paraskevidikatriov. Many hotels and tall buildings will skip the 13th floor, going straight from 12 to 14. Some airlines don't have a 13th row. All of this is done to accommodate a fear that is, when you break it down, a product of ancient numerology, religious history. So, the next time the calendar flips to Friday the 13th, you'll know the full story. It's not just one single event, but a slow brewing cultural cocktail of myth, religion, and modern media. It's a testament to the power of storytelling and our own human psychology, whether you choose to stay in bed or go about your day as normal. You're now part of this long, strange, and fascinating tradition. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through history and superstition. What do you think? Do you have any Friday the 13th stories of your own? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed unraveling this mystery, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world. See you next time.